Hi, this is the second part of my tribute to the late LA performance poet and storyteller Jack Shafer. And during Jack's lifetime, he had one book published, and the book is titled There Is a Season. And I'm going to do a piece from that book right now. And it is called Can Anybody Out There Hear Me? And it was one of Jack's signature pieces. I do like the work that I do. I take it seriously, but I take other poets' work even more seriously because I learn things from them that I never knew. I see things through their eyes, as spoken through their mouths, so I go to all the open poetry readings all around Southern California watching the poets. Saw a poet one time down in Alhambra talking about his poetry, about his words, how proud he was of them, the things that he could do with just words. But when I looked deeply enough into his eyes, I realized that's not what he was saying at all. I remember one time out at Thousand Oaks at a Borders reading. I was watching a young girl about 14 years old. She was reading a poem to us about the times that her father had violated the sanctity of her body. And I heard her voice quaver as she read it. But when I looked deeply enough into her eyes, I realized that's not what she was saying at all. I remember one time out at the North Hollywood Fatlands, I watched a good friend of mine, Ken Scott, read a love poem to his lady who was in the room at the time, and the rest of us faded to flat black and white as the two of them stood out in vivid color as he described the deepest feelings in his soul for her. But when I looked deeply enough into Ken Scott's eyes, I realized that's not what he was saying at all either. When I was 13 years old, I watched a car speed through a guardrail and bury itself beneath a freight train. And out of that wreckage, I heard a man's voice call out, "Can anybody out there hear me?" And he had to call 3 times, and louder, and finally, a man stepped out of the crowd that had gathered and said, "I hear you." And the voice from within said, "Please come to me now." And the man from the ground got down on hands and knees and began to crawl up underneath the freight train, and, while he was doing it, a bloody hand and arm reached out of the wreckage, and the voice from within said, "Please hold my hand. It is so hard to die alone." And the man from the crowd reached out and held the bloody hand, and the shaking soon calmed. And then a much calmer voice said, "Thank you," and died. Now, I go around to all the open poetry readings, and I watch my beloved poet friends as they read. I watch their mouths quoting beautiful lines of lyric and rhyme and love and passion and beauty. And all the while, I hear their eyes calling from the bottom of their souls, "Can anybody out there hear me? Please hold my hand. It is so hard to live alone." And if you were to look deeply enough into my eyes right now, you would hear the same thing. And so I simply share, we hear each other. We hold each other's hands. We are not alone. Thanks very much. And I really still miss you, Jack, and God bless you.